Hi, Jordan. Thank you so much
Hello.
for coming on the Make Life Rich movement. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor.
I, oh, no, thank you. I became instantly obsessed. Instagram just happened to put you in my Explorer page. I'm not a
It's
parent,
good.
but I have a niece and nephew. So a lot of kid things pop up for me, and your TubTopper, which we're going to get into very in depth, popped up, and I was like, whoa, this is big. Like, holy crap, this has needed to exist for so, so long. And I think parents by the end of this episode are going to be racing to the show notes to click and get you in their house as soon as possible because you've solved tub time. Tell me about the tub topper, and then I'd love to get into your background and kind of how this came to be
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. So, two small kids. The kind of backstory to it was one night, we used to give our kids a bath every night. And honestly, it was because it was a good place to just like, they would be in one spot and you could watch them there. And then, I mean, really to be honest, you could read or play on your phone or whatever, and they're having a ball, you're getting to rest, like all is good. But at the end of the night, it was always the cleanup, like just no matter what you did. And it was like, okay, stop playing on the edge, and then you can see how well they listen to that, since now a whole company has been built out of that command being broken. So but one night, both my kids were in the tub, and I have a son and a daughter, and I was putting my daughter to bed, and I'm always leery of having the kids around waters, but my son's or the bathtub was right next to the bathroom was right next to my daughter's room, and so I was putting her to bed, and my son was just cackling. I mean, just having a great time. So I could hear he's fine, okay. So I put her to bed. He's still cackling. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna run downstairs, grab him a snack, then I'll get him out of the tub. And I get downstairs, and the water's just dripping from a light fixture. And then I look on the ground. There's this huge puddle, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what has happened? So I turn around. I run upstairs as fast as I can. Like two steps before I get to the bathroom, it's and I was like, oh no. So the bathroom floor is just covered in water, and he is just having the best time. So he's putting all his figurines up on the bathtub edge, and he's taking this huge cup and he's just dumping water on them, knocking them over. And they'd been doing that for so long, and we had been putting a towel at the base of the bathtub that like the floor had ripped up, like curled up right there at the
Mhm.
base. So as he's doing this, it's just a free for all straight down to the kitchen. And at that point, it was like, all right, there's got to be something. So I did the Google thing, did the actually Amazon first, then Google. And I couldn't find anything, and I was like, that's crazy. There's no way. There's something's got to be out there, right? So I search and search and nothing, and I'm like, wow, all right, maybe there's something to this. So another night goes by, and life just gets in the way. So it was like, we had another incident. It was like, okay, so couldn't find anything. So I ran to the local store, and I just got some random parts from the store, and I put a prototype together and slapped it on that night, and it was crazy how well it worked. And I was just like, oh man, this is nuts! Like this actually works, and it solved the problem for us. And then again, life gets in the way, and we can go over my background, but I was in medical sales at the time, and so there's just no free time, like just running and gunning, and then home life when I got home. And but then enough people kept asking me like, hey, what is that? Or like my wife would post the bathtub pics, and people would be like, what in the world do you have on your bathtub? And so I was like, all right, enough people are asking, I'll look into this. And then a whole long period later, with lots of trials and craziness and stumbling, finally got to the first product. And yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, is anybody else going to buy this though? And I was like, there's got to be someone else that needs this. I think it's worth trying out. And thank God, yeah, there's been a lot of people that need it. So it's been a cool ride so far.
I can imagine. And I've worked with so many people over the last 14 years, and honestly, the necessity of something almost always leads to this viral sensation of a thing because if you need it,
Mhm.
there's at least a likelihood that a million other people out there need it. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
getting to that audience. But you have created something that nearly 60 to I think it's 65% of Americans right now have children under the age of like 10, so they're still tubbing it
hmm
up.
hmm
Every single one of them need this, or they're going to have mold issues,
yeah,
leaks, like the whole nine.
yeah.
It's insane that it took until you now to do this because it's a problem that has. I'm sure existed since children have been washing indoors in
Oh,
a tub.
absolutely. Yeah. And I remember thinking when we had kids and they started doing that, like I literally remember what my mom did. And my mom put the base of the towel at the base of the bathtub. And I was like, all right, that's what we'll do. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, like, and I'm in my mid 30s. So that was a while ago. And I know before that, that's probably what they were doing. So, yeah, I'm just as blown away as you. And I really was like, there's just no way. Like I'm missing something. And one of the steps we can get to is just going to a patent lawyer and being like, look, I need, can you do a deep search? Like, is there something I'm missing and they're just not selling? And after doing the prototype and bringing that to him, and he's like, no, he's like, this is something you could go forward with. I was like, well, this just boggles my mind. But yeah, a million people have thought of it. I get that all the time. Like, oh yeah, or they're like, this is genius, and I'm like, I'm not that smart. Like, I'm not, I just not. So,
You just
it's
did it.
it was just a regular. If you look at the design, it's not complicated. I just decided to try it, and yeah, here we are.
Phew. Okay, so I want to take a few steps back. Let's talk about this time frame. When
Mhm.
did this whole period start? And at this point, you were a full-time medical salesperson, which I'm sure everyone is aware typically is like a 60-hour minimum job. Like you're hustling.
A lot,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So how did this all, when was this time period and how were you kind of navigating both? Because I'm sure it picked up speed quickly once you realized like, holy crap, we've nailed something here that's all our own, like full speed ahead.
Yeah, so I would have liked to have thought that, but like just a look under the hood of what goes through the mind is, I even when I thought, hey, there's nothing out there, and I think I have something here, I still, had that dragging of the feet a little bit. There's just always something like holding you back, keeping you comfortable. And before I was in medical device, I was actually a PE teacher, so I had made a jump before to something that's kind of like nowhere near where you were and it's like those jumps that you take they take a lot of risk but only like a short amount of like just courage I guess you would call it but um, I think I've just learned and it wasn't a smooth transition like there was a lot of stumbling and the whole thing took a long time but once I finally was in the medical sales and like you said it's a crazy awesome job I really loved it and I loved being a teacher as well but it was all the time, always. And then as we started getting this together, it's like, hey, I think there's something here. There was enough small steps that you could do at a time. So it's just like I always tell everybody, like, just take one small step at a time because it'll overwhelm you. Like you're thinking end result, but and even at where I'm at now, I'm still thinking, 5 years from now, I'm like, that's a long way to go. So you got to bring it back and take these small steps. But to balance it out was really just like, what's the next step in the process? And they were always just seemed like big steps, but they also took a lot of time. Like everything just took so much more time. So back in 2019 is really when I started looking at this and thinking, okay, built the first prototype. Was like, all right, I think this is going to work. Then it's like, all right, what do you do next? I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing here. So I did what everyone does. I did a lot of research. When I became a medical device sales rep, I used to drive a whole lot. So I was always audiobooks and podcasts and just could not get enough. I love entrepreneurial stories and like how they get around things. And it was just always very fascinating to me. And so I just learned a lot from them. I love Shark Tank, and everyone's always like, "Yeah, you got to go on Shark Tank," and we can get to that. But I read some of their books, and Lori Grenier had a really good book, and Mark. I mean, they all have really good books, and I've read them all. But Lori had one where she was actually talking about needing tooling to make the first thing she made, which was the jewelry case. And so I was like, all right, what is tooling? So I look into that, and then you're sitting there googling manufacturers, and you're like, hey, I have this idea. Will you help me out? And they're like, well, where's your CAD drawing? And I'm like, I need a CAD. They're like, yeah, you need it. So it was not knowing. So a lot of this was just learned along the way. I had some CAD drawings that I got that ended up not being exactly what they needed. So after being told by about 30 different manufacturers, like, no, finally got one in the US, which was very important to me. Just one of those things. So, yeah, nothing against anyone who does it. For me, it was a choice that I
No.
wanted to make that was made in the
Yeah.
US. So, found the manufacturer, that I had wanted. All 30 of them were in the US. And so, found the one I wanted to work with, and then they kind of steered me in the right direction of, hey, you may need better CADs. And then it was like, okay, hey, now you got to make a mold. It's like, all right, what's a mold? How much does that cost? And it's like, That's how much that costs. Oh, good night. That's that's a lot because my product is 3 feet long. That's a huge mold. Um,
Hmm.
and so the next step after that was like, all right, this is a huge step, but it's like the down payment for the mold. So, you get this chunk of metal from India. It gets shipped to China. China then carves it out. It goes from China, gets shipped over to the US. And funny story, this is starting to get around the time where all the traffic is backing up in the bays. So ships are sitting there forever. So, like, my ship just sat in the bay for like a month. Like, it was like,
Mm.
hey, your delivery's here, but it's out in the bay. It's not going to be delivered. And then so this whole time you're kind of like just sending money out and not getting anything in,
Yeah.
but that's where having the other job was nice. So then it finally was able to come in. They got the first couple shoots out, sent them to me, and slapped them on the tub. I was like, please, dear God, just please let it work. Don't let there be some crazy issue going on here. And sure enough, it snapped on there and worked really well. But that was the hard part, was that balance of like, okay, doing this, and at times maybe I could have moved a little faster, but at the same time, like, you're trying to, provide for your family, and you're at the same time you're trying to push this along, and then you have 5 projects, and you want to be really good for your employer, and sales, it's always like sell or or you're out of here anyway. So you also want to keep your job for as long as you can. So that
Yeah.
was kind of the balance. It was tough.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, I can spot a high achiever from like 10 miles away. You are a high achiever.
I don't know about that.
If only for the ways in which that you navigated the evolution process. I think a lot of people give up a little
Yeah.
prematurely because things definitely can feel difficult or hard if it's the first time you're doing them, but
Yeah.
typically you can always stumble through and refine the process
Absolutely.
looking backward as you go. So I love that that was how it all came together for you, and all things in due time. Rushing to me never feels right. I always
Yeah.
try to caution people against it. It may feel like you need to go, 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 but everything happens in the way it's supposed to if you just stay steady and keep learning as you go and allowing
Hmm.
yourself the time to really learn those lessons and not, okay, I need to learn this later. It's like, we have to learn right here, right now before
Yeah.
we can move forward.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And so many lessons I've learned, not just in business, but in life, have been like the hard way. So, doing things one way and it not working out, and be like, all right, that probably wasn't smart. Let's readjust here. And business is just like that. Just magnified sometimes because they're big, costly decisions that you have to make. And they are scary, but like, if you'll just make a decision and then just go with it, like, you never have all the things you need. It's like you have a couple little things, and it's like, all right, a decision has to be made. I'm going to make this decision here and go this way. And then if it's not working out, like, we'll be able to adjust or adjust here. But like, I think indecision is what kills most everybody. And like, this almost thing didn't even happen just from indecision. So it is that going back to just like one small step, just take that one small step. And like, I appreciate the compliment of saying I'm a high achiever, but I feel like it's just because I just work hard. Like, I don't, like, I always feel like, why is it so hard for me to get to where I'm wanting to be? But um, it's not that I'm anything special. I just work really hard. And for my business, I've just always given everything to God, and then anything that I can't control in what I'm doing, I feel like He's controlling. Now, I wish that meant that everything works out perfectly smooth, but there's no growth there. There's no working on your
Mhm,
character there. And I know that every
mhm,
bad decision that I've made, or wrong decision,
mhm.
has always ended up finally working out one way or another, whether it's made me, a better decision maker, or smarter entrepreneur, or just maybe more resilient. So it
Yeah.
all has ended up working out.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think it rings really true with most of the people. I'd say all of the people I've interviewed, they come to a moment where I think they recognize that they too think they are not special. But over time, I've come to learn there are people that do and there are people that don't. The
Mm-hmm.
people that do are the ones that are thinking the long-term end, and the
Mm-hmm.
steps in
You're right.
between are part of that journey.
You're
The
right.
ones that don't look at that very first step as like, oh, I can't do that. And then it's like, well, then
Right.
every single thing after that is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I do only state that because I do want you to know how rare it is for you to be a doer because there aren't many. And it's important for me to have conversations like this because there's always people on the fence. They
Hmm.
maybe don't have someone in their life that could have modeled that for them, like you're able
Yeah.
to do with your children. I can't wait to talk about that. But that's why I love these conversations
Yeah.
because some people can really have the want, but they just didn't see that modeled for them, or they've never really heard it in a way that they're like, oh, okay, okay, I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
Like all I can do is try. And your story is
Absolutely.
definitely one that I think from the beginning, once your Instagram title, and I was like, oh my God, this is a family run business. This was
Yeah.
created by a dad for the necessity of his children having more fun and him not completely blowing out the second
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah. And I got tired of yelling at him, you know? It's like I just want everyone to have fun and I can relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me what like I'm a crier, so I might be setting you up here, but tell me what it feels like to have one, your children be the reason for this life-changing thing that's come into all of your like realities, and two, kind of have them be the prototypes for this thing that's now not only changed your home and I'm sure, your family and the way that you're moving forward with this business, but all of those tub toppers that you've sold are legitimately giving a parent a break and giving children time to play. Like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, it's an absolute blessing. My favorite thing to do is read the emails that don't go to anyone else. They just go to me and they're the mom that's, thanking me for this. Like that, that's the best. Like it just is. Like I love sales and I love business and I love all the stuff. The marketing's fun, but like those, like when I think any true entrepreneur is all you're doing is solving a problem. And like it's the same with like when I was in sales, it was like all you're doing is solving a problem, and it's like if there's an issue and we can solve your problem, like you feel good there. Like that's awesome. So for this, there was nothing else out there. So this is a big problem that a lot of people have. And so being able to solve that for parents, because look, it's hard being a parent. I am far from perfect. And like I try to do the best I can with my kids and my wife and I, we do everything we can. And but look, my kids are gonna be messed up in their own way. We're all none of our parents are perfect, and I had great parents. They were amazing, loving parents. But we're all gonna be a little messed up. So you're trying to do the best you can, and it's like if I could just provide one thing that's a little bit easier for parents and a little more enjoyable for kids, it's like boom, boom, there, win, win. And I think you were asking about the kids, like it is fun now looking back because like now I've got to look back at like it's 2019. That was a little bit of time ago. And so when I pull up pictures and I see like them around the prototype, like they're just so young and so little. And it hasn't, I'll be honest, it hasn't really hit yet because I'm so like hyper focused on like the business and what's next and what are we doing and do we have enough? I mean, I feel like I'm holding on to a race car going 1,000 miles an hour, just barely holding on,
Hmm.
which is great. It's a huge blessing. But I haven't got to stop and really think about that a whole lot, but I try every now and then to just think, man, this is cool. When my kids started saying like, calling it what it actually was, like, the tub topper or whatever, like, and they have no clue, they're young. My son's getting ready to turn 8, my daughter's 5. They have no idea that this is a thing that's like, selling, all around the world now. But it's very cool. It is. I think it'll be awesome for them looking back one day. I think one day they'll be able to be like, oh, cool. And you always want to try to show your kids like, hey, anything's possible.
Hmm.
And I've always tried to do that in my life in a lot of different aspects. But like now, like with business, like anytime that they're like, Dad, can I do this one day? I'm like, yeah, like it's hard, whatever you want to do, but like, yeah, you can. And if you try, and then be an example to them of saying that like you just got to try, and then you're going to fail and you're going to try again, you're going to fail and you're going to try again. But like you're talking about doers, and the only difference between doers and non-doers is like they just got over the fear of like letting themselves down. Like you're gonna let yourself down. Like there's a crazy study I read not long ago that like 16-year-olds are waiting longer and longer to get their license, and they take it back to a fear of failure and a fear of what that looks like to everybody else.
Yeah.
I was like, man, the day I turned 16, like that morning, went and got my license. I'm running cars off the road. Like, I think that's what I don't want um, everyone maybe that I'm close to fall into is that fear of like, what does other think, and fear of letting myself down. It's like,
Mhm.
that's going to happen in your life no matter what. And the quicker you just go face those fears and start failing and realizing that you're not going to die, like you're going to be fine, then you can move on to the next thing, or you can move on to the next step.
Yeah. It's also important, I think, to note that you are modeling this for them in such an amazing way that at the very least they are going to be problem solvers, because whether or not we know it, like they absorb so much.
Yeah.
And then watching you and watching the tub topper change and look different, and then now like they see pictures of other kids using it,
Yeah.
like it is going to imprint them in a way to, at the very least, they may just have that creative flair that overpowers the fear, to where they're like, oh, this is fun, like I don't
Yeah.
need to sweat it, like I'm just giving it a go,
Yeah.
which is such a beautiful thing to pass down to your kids. And I think entrepreneurship, my father was an entrepreneur. It
Oh,
was
cool.
absolutely a rocky road for him, and he just like did his best, and that was the part that I kind of got to see,
Yeah.
was the struggle. It took
Yeah.
a really long time for him to amass some sort of success, and that is what sticks with me. Like you
Mhm.
can't pay for those lessons, and I
No.
always want to let each entrepreneur know that I interview that's a parent, like you're making such amazing blueprints for them in their brain, just for how their brain is going to work in the future, and the fear that they attach to just solving problems, because that's in essence what you're doing every day, and it's really
Yeah.
beautiful that you get to share it with them. It's super
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what they do. Like they don't have to go into business. They don't like, if you want to be the best nurse, like you're going to have lots of challenges. My wife's an RN, like it's going to, if you want to be a teacher, I was a teacher, like whatever you want to do, like there's going to be hard with it. And then like, I just want them to be the best at what they want to do, and like just not worry about the failure part of it. Like it is rocky, it is hard. Um, and like I said, I've had failures. So like you just keep going. Like just keep going. Come on, one more rep. Like do one more thing, one more step.
Oh my God, are you an Ed Milet fan?
Is a what?
Are you an
Oh,
Ed
Ed
Milet
Milet.
fan?
So I listen to a lot of those guys. So and I
Yeah.
like Ed as well. But yeah, like in our gym, that's a saying. It's like do one more. Like do
Oh, I
one
love
more. So let's say you have like 12 reps left. It's like if you're looking at 12 reps, that's too much. And maybe you don't have the ability to do 12, but you have the ability to do one more. And it's like once you get done with that one more, all right, let's do one more. And the next thing you know, it may have taken a while, but you have all 12 reps out of the way. So it's just that thing of like, do one more, just one more step, one more rep. But yeah, I do like Ed Milet a lot. He's a good one.
He also, oh, sorry, my dog is barking. One second.
You're all right.
Sophie. She's a pistol. My husband will grab her. We live down at the beach, and it's a windy day. It's a cold day. I didn't expect there'd be too many people walking, but the minute they do, man, she's like, I'm at my post.
Yes. Yes.
They're
Our
coming
dog's the
down the
same way.
mountain.
Yeah. Got to protect at
I'm
all
like,
costs, right?
yeah, dude. Come on, go lay down. You're being loud. So sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
We'll edit this out. Don't worry.
Kids and dogs, right? They're a handful.
I love them. They get to live their little life, but it's all right. Let me write this down. So we're at 22, 34. Okay. Okay. Where are you currently with the weight of the product? Did that change much? Like, did you have to, and what is it made out of specifically? It looks like it's made out of like a play school plastic. What is that whole finish called? I don't want to botch it, but
Yeah, no, it's a plastic type that is very strong, durable. We wanted to make it safe, so like the mold free, BPA free. It it's all sourced safely. Like I said, it's all produced here in the U.S. as well, and so that was a big thing. It's like it's going to be around kids. Like one, I want quality over everything. So like when we were making it, there's lots of places where like you could have cut corners, but it was like no, it's like the number one thing in making it was quality. So it's a lot of people with the reviews have called it like a playground grade plastic. So I kind of like
Mhm.
that name. It is very doable. It was designed to you buy it when your first kid is however old and starts standing up in the tub and playing. You slap it on there, whether you have one or you have eight. Like it's really built to last all your kids. Like sometimes even the design of it, where I specially designed the suction cups and the screws to, I didn't want there to be any place it could leak. So as you see on this, like there's no screw holes or anything. The screws go up through the suction cups, and that's meant because like people will rip them on and off. I wanted to stick
Mhm.
really well. That's why I put 10 suction cups on there. And
Wow.
because again, my kids would like, lean and play, and like, I want this to be safe. So
Yeah.
over time, with people ripping them on and off, sometimes they have to make small adjustments to the screws just to make sure that suction cup's tight. But like, I mean, we've had ours since 2000. I think I got the prototype 2020. So the very first one that came off the line, which 2020 was a fun year. Um, yeah, the very first one that came off the line though is still on our bathtub and is still working like a charm. I mean, both my kids were in the bath last night. So my son
Wow.
does the bath shower combo now, where he has the bath
Love
water,
that.
but the shower's coming down. And then my
Nice.
daughter was just on there as well. So yeah, still working like a charm.
That's crazy. I think um, I always try to, well, I'll say this. I get really excited by new things and new things that should have existed like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I think this is absolutely one of those products. And typically, if they're in like the pet area or like the baby child area, man, you're now, I guess my question is, has it set in yet that you are now going to be a legacy product within the child and baby department? Like you're
No,
guaranteed to be a birthday present, going
no.
to a baby shower. Like I don't want you to underestimate the impact of not having to clean that floor and
Yeah.
not having to
Yeah. No,
replace
I get it.
that
Believe me.
flooring. Like
Yeah.
just for my sister alone, I know what like she spends every night putting 6 towels in the dryer because
Yeah.
they're, just on
Yeah.
the floor. So that alone, I think it could be a $300 product. And I think parents would be like, in the cart, let's go.
Right. Right. No, I haven't really thought about that. A lot of people, whether it be strangers who bought one, or people like you that are so gracious to say that, friends and family, like they say that, and I, I don't know. It's just, it's almost like no, like I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to think about that yet. Like I have too much that I'm trying to uh, it's not time to pick my head up and be like, oh, look what we've done. It's just like, okay, there's so much to do. Like, um,
Hmm.
so I really appreciate that. That's obviously like a goal. That's a hope. That's a dream. It's one of those things you put in your head and you kind of leave to the back as like, yeah, let's put it on the dream board or whatever you want to call it. Like,
Hmm.
but it is cool to think about that. That's a possibility, I guess, because
Hmm.
not everything created has the possibility of doing that. All of
Hmm.
them are handy. All of them are great that people will buy. But having that as an idea that that could be a thing, yeah, is amazing. It's great, and it's almost like that makes you work 10 times as hard because you don't want to mess it up. I'm like every day, I'm like, dear Lord, just please don't let me mess this up. Like let me just don't let me mess it. Let me continue, and that's why I try to work really hard and continue. But I really appreciate that that notion of you saying that though.
Oh, I'm happy to say it because it's the truth. I think I look forward to a few years from now when you are a name, like everyone is gonna know what this is, and it's going to be like the bumpy or like like it's just this made up name of a thing where you know what it is, and everybody puts it on the registry list. That's all I'm saying. I just see
Yeah.
it coming.
Well, I
But
appreciate that. I hope you're right. Yeah, and you say like made up name, like
100%.
that's one with like I wasn't even a fan of the name of what I called it, but I remember watching. We talked about Shark Tank. I was watching Shark Tank, and the guys who invented the drop stopper, which went beside your car seat. And I think one of the guys, his mom, didn't know what to call it. One of the guys, his mom was like, "Hey, just call it what it does. It stops you from dropping stuff." And so when I was trying to think of something for this, knowing there was nothing like it, knowing I wanted the name to be synonymous with like what it does, it was like it sits on top of the tub. So and it kind of had that TT, it kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit. And I was like, I'm not a fan of that, but I'm to a point I've got to just come up with a name. So TubTopper, but I think it'll be like anything. I think in the beginning you're like, what is that? And then like you say, hopefully after time, it just becomes like, oh yeah, that's naturally the name.
Instantaneously, it stopped me. I saw the picture first, and then I was like, what is that? oh no, like someone finally made this. And then I looked up at your name and instantly I was like, oh my gosh, someone did. Clicked on your website and I was losing it. And then I was like, wait a minute, let me Google. Has this existed? Because I have a 2-year-old nephew and a 1-year-old niece. Uh, my sister is a super mom. She, like she'd be like, "Oh, I don't need that. I'll just clean the floor." Like she's just
No,
one of
you
those.
gotta, after this, you gotta give me an address. We'll get her one, okay? I'll
Oh,
send her one.
bless you. She
Yeah,
could use it because my nephew loves the splashing. It's just you can only
yeah.
shield it with your body and then it's on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when I Googled, I quickly realized you are it. And then I found a random Google photo here or there of people using what looked like a shower, like
Mhm,
some piece of what would have been like a
mhm,
modular shower of some sort.
mhm.
But what drew me to your product instantly, I was like, wow, they thought about the cleanup. There are no nooks and crannies that are difficult to get any kind of
Mhm,
residue out. There's not going to be any mold or mildew.
mhm,
It looks really easy to clean. Like any kind
mhm.
of cleaner you put on it is going to wash off easily. There's no weird waterproof parts. It's just seamless. There's no way that a child could squish some dirty water out and get it in their eye and have a meningitis problem or whatever that weird thing was
Right, yeah,
happening with like the squeaky toys.
yeah.
You thought about every turn, and it's because it was for your child.
You're
So
exactly
right
right.
out the gate, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. He made it for his kids. Of course, it's going to be perfect because it's for his children. I think it's going to be one of those things that a parent would be like, oh my gosh, thank you, sir. Thanks for doing this for all of us because if I had the time, I would. But not
Yeah,
everyone does. And it was your
uh,
journey and it was meant for you.
yeah,
So. I know I
yeah. No,
keep
I
harping
appreciate
on
it.
it, but it's beautiful that like you're the vessel that got chosen for this.
Yeah. Oh,
And it
yeah. I'm
really is
thankful
one of
every
those
day for
things.
that. Yeah, no, you're right. And it was a lot of thinking and it was a lot of testing to see, hey, does this work? Does that work? And then again, it was just why I was building. I was like, look, I don't care what has to be done. It's got to just be quality. It's got to work great. And look, it's not. I appreciate the kind words, but it's not perfect. There's always things where I'm like, oh man, but you kind of get outside of a realm of physics. You're like, okay, well, yeah, this could happen, but like that, how do you even do that? And one of the things is the very first one we made. I again go back to I didn't know if anybody would buy it, so I tried to make one that would fit on most bathtubs. So another thing we get a lot is like, hey, this doesn't fit on rounded tubs, and it's like, not yet. We're close. Okay, so I had to get one working that works on most tubs first to make sure people would buy it. Once they
Mhm.
started buying it, we are very close to releasing next iterations of what works on a rounded tub, a smaller version. We've
Oh
got
my
a
goodness.
lot of things cooking, so we don't want to be a one trick pony. But we had to figure out what what worked for the vast majority. And I think we've got the vast majority of bathtubs. And so
Hmm.
any parents that are watching this and it maybe you have a curb tub or you have a jacuzzi or like give us time. Follow us and we'll give you
Okay.
updates soon. So yeah, but quality was everything for my kids, for anyone kids. And again, I hated always buying stuff that then later on, whether it broke or didn't work like it said, like a frustration because you spend your hard-earned money on those things, and I just want it to work. So that was a lot that went into the design. I needed to work.
Congratulations on extending your product suite so soon.
We're not there yet, but we're working on it.
You got me. You got me.
Yeah.
I'm crying. This is such a beautiful step because it's just the next thing down the pipeline. It was one of my questions. Do you have anything
Yeah.
coming in the pipeline?
Yeah.
So that's
So
really cool.
earlier this week, we released white finally. So
Oh,
that was a goal is to get colors out. Today, which is what, December 11th, 2023, we released gray. It came live today. So we have gray and white. And then we have pink coming out soon. So pink will
cool.
follow. And so we're going to stay with four colors. Again, I had to pick a color in the beginning. I picked blue, which was, the color of water is what I always went with.
Hmm.
The duct tape that I used in the beginning when I was searching for duct tape in the store, blue was there. And I was like, oh, water. So then
Hmm.
after it was on our bathtub forever, I was like, okay, now I'm just kind of used to the blue and it kind of pops out. So people were always like, what
Hmm.
is that blue thing?
Hmm.
So we stuck with blue. Again, I wanted to make sure it was going to sell. So I had to pick one color, one SKU. Okay, now we know it works. Okay, now we're releasing colors. So we're at colors now, which is a big step for us.
Very cool. And I love for me, the colors that you chose. And I think because of the play school grade like plastic,
Hmm.
it instantly just adopted the feeling for me of like safety.
Yeah.
Like all of those toys are made like there's not going to be a sharp edge, there's not going to be a place to jam a finger. Like everything was
Hmm.
thought it through, and your product very much evokes that like, oh wow, okay, this is a safe product.
Hmm.
Like it's
Yeah.
clean, it operates well. You get all of that immediately just from your eye identifying what it's made of. So I think
Mm.
that was super. I don't know if that was on purpose, but it's super on my end feels like a great
Yeah.
marketing tool that you have to work with.
Yeah, just quality. And like honestly, our best marketers are our customers. Like those that get on and say, "Hey, you got it," or the mom that buys it, and we do, which we could get into. Where you saw social media influencing, which what 2023 is really when I started doing that. And over the summer, we could talk about that. But kind of that was a tipping point in velocity for us, and some of that stuff that started picking up. But yeah, it was moms are just like what you just said. Hey, there's no sharp edges. Hey, it works really well. Hey, it cuts down on this. And that's why you probably don't see us on anything except for social media influencing, just
Hmm.
because one, we're very small. And when I say very small, it's me. And then I've got a few consultants that I work with. So as of midway through the summer, my Instagram started looking a lot nicer, started looking more professional. It's because I work with a really great girl named Erin. She helps me with that to kind of just because I'm a dad and I'm trying to do a lot of the business stuff and I'm like
Yeah.
I can't and so she's been great about keeping it looking nice and the design and
Hmm.
we go back and forth on like what needs to be posted and stuff. So when you see some of the funny stuff or the informational stuff, we've talked about, but so she's a huge help. But yeah, it was just those parents telling everybody else, and that was important to us. So if you make it right, if you make a great product, and
Hmm.
Alex Hormozy is another. I don't know if you watch any of his
Sure.
stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's another good one. He had said something about which really hit home, and I didn't even realize this was kind of what we had done correctly. Was he was like, you can either spend a whole lot of time and make a really good product, and then you don't have to worry about sales as much because everyone else is going to be selling it for you. He's like, or you can rush it and make not a great product, and then you're going to spend the rest of the time trying to sell it to people because and it's like yeah, like that's what we did. We took a long time to design it and make sure it was right, and now
Yeah.
moms have just taken it and ran with it, and dads too. But
Yeah.
I the moms, God bless the moms.
Yeah. Yeah. They work hard. They deserve this helper in the bathroom for sure. 100%. I would love to know about your influencer program. How did that come together for you? Did you put that together? Did Aaron help you with that? Like kind of just figuring out who to reach out to and what
Yeah,
you're going to
so
do with that?
funny story, we had Amazon boxes on our front doorstep about every day, every other day. So my wife would purchase things on Amazon all the time. And one time she was talking about something she got, and she's like, so and so said about this, and I was like, who is that? Like, I met her? Because sometimes I forget the name she
Yeah.
tells me about people that we don't see often.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I follow her on Instagram, and it kind of was like, duh, you idiot. And like I watched some Gary Vee stuff, and that's what Gary Vee's always talking about. Like, you know, this is the best way to market. Like if I tell you like, hey, you've got to buy these sunglasses, they're amazing. Like that's going to work way better than if you see 1,000 commercials.
Mhm.
So I was like, how do you do this? I have no idea how to do this. So I just started DMing people like just like crazy. So I got on Instagram and was just like all the moms that would pop up on my feed. Like I got my feed to only be pretty much mom influencers. I was
Mhm.
DM, hey, blah, blah, blah. I'd give them a copy and paste message to all of them and just nothing, nothing, nothing. Copy and paste, nothing. Months went on. Nobody was. Every now and then I'd get one. Oh, cool. Okay, great. And then I'd get another one every now
Mhm.
and then. But like I'm talking, like I would send out like 15 or 20 of these an evening. And so like you're talking about 7 days a week, 20 of these going out. There was a lot of messages going out, and just
Mhm.
wasn't getting much back. But as I started to get some back, I even had one who she bought one on her own, then made her own thing and tagged us in it, and that did really well. So every time it did well, our sales would bump up. Well, that
Mhm.
was a supply chain nightmare, which was a blessing, but also very tough because sales bump up. You're not ready for it. You run out of product. So we ran into a lot of that. But yeah, so it just started slowly gaining traction.
Mhm.
Kind of started doing that last year about this time, and then had a couple really good videos that the moms would make. So I would just send them a product and say, hey, like we're a small company, but I could send you a product. You know, would you mind just showing your influencers or excuse me, your followers? Um, and I'll just give it to you for free. And so some would say, no, you know, we charge this much. And I'm like, we don't have the funds right now. We appreciate it. You know, good luck to you. But some would say, yeah, sure, we'll do that. So started sending it to them. And then the videos would kind of get going and traction would happen. And then it was so funny. There was the end of June, right before July, and a girl, her name's Paige. Think of her last name. She she did this same thing. She had 30,000 followers, which I always thought was like, wow, it's a whole bunch. But then you people with like 200,000, and the ranges are crazy. Um, but she did this video, and all of a sudden it was like 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Like the views were, she just was blowing up. And I was like, what in the world just happened? Well, sales shot up. Like, and I'm talking, I think to this day, it's got like 14 or 15 million views, but like the first 10 million happened in like, 2 weeks time. It was just nuts. Um, and I ended up dissecting it, kind of going back and figuring out what happened differently there. But what happened is there was one, an audio clip where it was like snacks, snacks. I can't remember how, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but that was essentially, it was like somebody going on a trip and like, what do we bring? What do we bring? And then they're like snacks. And so
Mhm.
she had that audio on her thing, and her kids were eating snacks in the bathtub, which my kids did all the time. Well, I guess
Mhm.
that set off like a social argument of whether you allow food in the bathtub or not. So
Mhm.
that's what shot up the viewership of that video so much. And for me, I'm just sitting back like, hey, people are seeing the TubTopper. I don't care what they care about snacks in
Mhm.
the bathtub. So after that, it was a lot easier to start getting influencers to then, do product exchanges because the name started getting out there. And we've kind of been just rolling with that over the last, 5 or 6 months. But that was it was a long learning process, and I'm still learning a lot. Aaron kind of helped me come in and understand more of like the professional side of social media. I'm not a big social media guy. Like, my friends always say we're happy your wife is on hers because then we know you're alive, because she'll post a picture of me and the kids. It's like, oh, there he is. Um, but so she's helped me learn a lot of that. But the influencer part was really just trial and error, and then kind of figuring out what works and then trying to do that over and over again. And hopefully in the future, we can actually start spending money in that area. Right now,
Mhm.
still, it's trying to keep up with demand and materials and all of that. That's kind of where a lot of our money has to go. So, but hey, if you've got influencers that are willing to do product exchange, and have a lot of viewers, then that works out well for us.
That's so cool. I love too the fact that you almost were given this ability to really kind of pick and choose who you want to work with, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is important because you were the
Yeah.
one reaching out. But it also gives you the ability to kind of control what you think the result might be. You don't want to like Oprah affect yourself and like oversell and you don't have enough to give and
Yeah.
then you're like, "Oh crap." Like that
Yeah.
can destroy a relationship so soon with an impatient customer. But
Mm-hmm.
you said you'd ran into some supply issues at times during like sales periods that were large.
Mm-hmm.
What was like your first when that happened? What did you learn as a result to try to avoid that, or at least keep leveling up to try to keep up with the demand?
Yeah. So for me, and there's a lot of different ways you can go in business. You could go take out a bunch of money. You could go get the loans. You could take, investors on. And so for me, I try to keep things at a biblical principle, and like debt has always seemed like not a great one to have. Now, I don't, debt is okay in business. It's fine. It's a great tool to have. And a lot of people are going to be like, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. You're probably right. I probably don't. But for us in the beginning, it was, I don't want to take out a bunch of money if this
Yes.
may not work. Okay. So I don't want to be in debt if it's not going to work. Now, later on, will we? I don't know. We'll see when it comes.
Hmm.
So in the beginning, it definitely was like, I don't want to have any debt coming in.
Hmm.
So it was, you sell, and then everything you make from the sales you pour back into more material, and then you sell into more material. And I would love to do other ways to sell it, but really Amazon has been the main vehicle because it costs so much money to ship because it's so big. It only weighs 4.5 pounds, but because it's 3 feet long, they get you by size instead of weight. And so it's
Hmm.
very expensive. Like, and that's a big reason for the price. A lot of people are like, that's so expensive. And it's like, I'm working on trying to get that down. Please don't think we're like price gouging you.
Hmm.
Amazon is very expensive. Shipping is very expensive.
Hmm.
Materials have gone way up since COVID. Um, Manufacturing prices have gone up. Just cost of hourly wages have gone up. And we haven't raised our price from the beginning of what we thought we could do. So even we've got skinny at times. But
Hmm.
um, so it was just like, how do we ride these waves? So there was times when I stopped reaching out to influencers because I'm like, okay, well, I need to just kind of let this rise slower
Hmm.
for my goal of staying out of debt but keeping product in there. And I knew as we grew, I can put that cash reserve a little bit bigger and bigger to make bigger and bigger orders. And then through a lot of trial and error and working with my vendors, it was like, hey, can I have a little more time here? Because it is a process. You order the supplies, you make it, you ship it off, then it's sold. Then 2 weeks later, you're paid for that product, by
Hmm.
Amazon. So there's a long process there. And you got to figure out a way to keep things coming in while things are going out and not having a huge amount of money to dip into.
Hmm.
But as that's grown, we've taken the profit and just put it back into buying more and more, making bigger, longer purchase orders. So instead of ordering a certain amount of time, be like, we want to order this much, but it'll be over this amount of time.
Hmm.
Getting deals made there that help out a lot. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a work in progress. You may still see us run out of product here and there. We're trying, and who knows what the future holds with being able to take that next step to where that's not an issue. We'll see
Hmm.
how it goes.
It's a beautiful place to be, and I'm sure at times a very frustrating one, but you really have reached the crux of your business to where you have just like a few more inches and you're going to be able to see like over to the other side of
Oh,
it.
it's a
Yeah,
ah,
you're like, oh, I'm so close. I'm on the
yeah,
horizon. I can see it. I was curious about the shipping for you because of the size. I'm sure it's quite light. It looks very light. 4 pounds, I'm sure, is nothing.
yeah,
I've ordered heavier books, but
yeah, yeah.
I wondered about the size of the shipping. So is that partly what led you to considering partnering with Walmart as an outlet?
Yeah, so they have essentially very similar to what Amazon has, where it's a fulfillment by Walmart service. So what I do is I send product from my manufacturer to a Walmart facility, and it holds there. And then as orders come in online, they ship it out. Well, Walmart and Amazon have much better shipping prices than I do, obviously, just the volume they do. So
Hmm.
you're still paying a price for storage fees, for processing fees, for shipment fees, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, that's still way cheaper than what I can ship a product,
Hmm.
for in the U.S. anywhere. I just don't have the volume and have not found an outlet yet of a way to do any direct to consumer as well. So it's been riding off the back of some of these. And also, you got to think about it being a new product. So for me, the very first night, I was like, okay, I didn't know about anything out there, but on Amazon, bathtub, splash guard, water, blah, blah, blah. Nothing that I need shows up. Well, first to market in this area was able to take all those words that I looked for and put them in my listing. So when somebody else looks, so it's also really important to me to be on those places where people do kind of just type in words to see if there's anything out there. And then boom, we pop up. They're like, oh, perfect.
Hmm.
Amazon is and Walmart are both kind of the Google of shopping. It's like, or
Yes.
you could Google it. Both of them pop up as well. So there's more than one benefit to being on both of those.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's smart. I think a lot of smaller makers and inventors sometimes don't see it as a benefit or a tool during the earlier stages of their growth. You certainly
Mm-hmm.
always have the option to decide to remove yourself from that space. But I do think, as you said, that it's a great space just to borrow their audience.
Yeah,
And that audience has already got a trigger finger that is happy to pull. So,
very happy, especially this time of year. Yeah, and they're on
yes,
buying other stuff. And then
yes.
as we get more and more reviews and more sales, we're popping up when they're looking for other stuff as well. So
Hmm.
it's really nice. We're not even advertising on there yet. So anything that pops up is really organic. But that is, again, praise God, but that's the first mover advantage of, nothing else being out there for it. So you kind of pop up and there's not another option they can go to at this time. I'm
Yeah.
sure people are coming for us, but
No, not yet. Not yet. They're not paying attention. But they will, and I think at that point it'll be too late because there's only one tub topper, you
I
know?
hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I always ask my guests this final question, and I'm very excited to know your answer. I think it's going to be a great one. Jordan, how do you make your life rich?
How do I make my life rich? Look, I think you got to break that down into like what matters the most. For me, my relationship with Christ is what makes my life rich. True meaning, true happiness, true purpose, all the things. I tried in my life before that, finding a lot of those things without avail. And when I surrendered my life completely, uh, I found that. So for me, my life is rich in that aspect first and foremost. Um, After that, God is love as well. So after that, I can pour so much more love into my wife, into my kids, into my family, into my friends, and even into my hobbies and my business and all those things. So for me, that's what makes my life rich. And, I have the most amazing, best wife ever. I have amazing kids. I have, amazing family, amazing friends. Some of my friends I need to, hey, I'm still out here. I'm just, really busy. So I apologize. But yeah, I think it's those things. I think it's having my priorities straight in order. I love what I do with this, but this isn't who I am. This will all go away one day. I won't be here. This business won't be here. Newsflash: Apple won't even be here one day. So
Hmm.
it's all just gonna fade one day. So I think it's having the enjoyment and purpose and fulfillment while I'm here makes it very rich. And in these things, it's just icing on top, but it's like a lot of great icing. So it's that's what makes my life rich.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it doesn't escape me that your love that you're able to pour out into the world created this product that has literally given parents so much time back. And that alone, you as a parent know, is so important just to cut down the noise and just find those pockets of
It's a
rest.
lot of
So
noise.
it was your gift to the world. And I think it was a really beautiful gift because everyone can take those 10 minutes of joy now because of the tub topper.
I really appreciate that.
Oh, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on. It
Thank you.
is going to be a joy to watch your journey and where your company grows. I know you're headed straight to the top. So remember us way back when and say, come back on the show and tell us about all of your growth and all the amazing things that have happened for your company and your family.
Anytime, anytime. I really appreciate it. I
Oh,
got to
thank
listen to
you.
some of your podcasts. You do a great job. I love what
Oh,
you're
thank
doing.
you.
I think you're
Thank
headed to the top too. So keep doing what
you.
you're
Oh,
doing.
thank
You're
you. It
very
means
good
a
at
lot.
interviewing and what you're doing. So keep doing it. I love the curiosity aspect. And sometimes I tend to just throw up my words. So you do very good at letting us do that and then guiding us where we probably need to go.
Oh,
So
thank you. You were
you do a
great.
great job.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
That means
having
the
me
world
on.
to me. Thank you so much.